What's going on, you guys? Welcome on back to the channel. Now, the new episode of My Hero Academia Vigilantes just dropped, and honestly, man, this episode was crazy. The amount of different story ramifications that take place within this episode is wild to me that I was like, you know what? I have to come on here and I have to make a video. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Let's talk about this new episode of My Hero Academia Vigilantes. So, the first thing that I want to talk about is Tsukauchi. Now, Tsukauchi has always been an interesting character to me, solely because I always wanted to learn more about his past, right? For Tsukauchi, for the longest time in mainline My Hero Academia, the extent of his character was that he's All Might's friend and he knows about One for All. That was pretty much the extent of Tsukauchi as a character. So we didn't really know anything about like his like past or his home life or his family or anything like that. All we knew about Tsukauchi was that he was All Might's friend and essentially he knows about One for All. So that was the interesting thing about Tsukauchi in the beginning, but now that everybody knows about One for All, it doesn't really make him as interesting anymore. So I've been hoping for Tsukauchi to get some kind of like development. Well, Vigilantes, man, Vigilantes delivered that for me and then some. Because in this episode, we essentially get a flashback to Tsukauchi's past, and we essentially get to see some of his home life, right? We get to see his mom, and we see his mom essentially tell Tsukauchi that they went to the doctor and they found out what Makoto's quirk is, and it's kind of like a truth revealing quirk. So we got to learn more about that day. And what I liked was when Makoto essentially used her quirk on Tsukauchi, right? She asked Tsukauchi, "Do you love me? Like, do you love me, big brother?" And like Tsukauchi's all embarrassed and he says no. And then like it transitions into Tsukauchi like crying, about to make a call to All Might because he doesn't want his sister to die. He doesn't want his sister to die without knowing that he loves he loves her. So you then see like Tsukauchi make the call to All Might. All Might answers the phone, and you see Tsukauchi just give such a heartfelt plea to All Might. This is something that he has never wanted to do. He's never wanted to exploit like All Might or anything like that. He don't want to ask for any like anything that he would deem as like selfish. But in this instance, he felt like he had to. He felt like he had to do this for the sake of his sister and for the sake of his family. So you see Tsukauchi outright beg and plead All Might to please save his sister. And in that moment, you see All Might answer the call, and you see All Might break through the window and race to go save like Makoto and everybody at Sky Egg. That was perfect to me because I never thought that All Might we would see All Might in this kind of state again, right? So I guess now we're gonna be talking about All Might. So we're transitioning to All Might, right? And what I liked about All Might in this episode is that he just seems so powerful, right? This is All Might, I feel like, at his most powerful. Yes, I think, I'm pretty sure he has encountered All for One at this point, and he does have the injury, but you wouldn't know it by watching this episode, right? All Might was moving different, man. Like the shit that he was doing in this episode when he saved everybody at Sky Egg, when he was throwing those punches and all that, like that's not this kind of stuff that I thought we were gonna see from like an All Might that is critically injured, and especially since he used his power so much. I wonder if we're at the point now where I guess he doesn't have the timer, which is very interesting. I think that's really interesting that he doesn't have like the timer yet, because after the initial saving and all that, like where he saves Makoto and everybody at Sky Egg, he essentially is able to transform again and save everybody from all those little miniature like bat bomb things. So I think that's actually cool. I think it's cool that he doesn't essentially have the timer yet, but I want to know like when the timer is something that becomes important again. I think that would probably be soon, but I guess we have to keep watching. But the little thing that I do want to talk about is even though they don't show him in this episode, we do find out that All Might essentially saved like Izuku's life right here at Sky Egg inadvertently, which I think is so cool. But I also thought we were going to get something kind of interesting. I thought we were going to get something where All Might ask Koichi, like, who are you? And I thought, like, Koichi was going to say something like, "Oh, I'm the crawler" or something like that, but instead he says, "I'm your biggest fan." What I thought could have happened was it could have created an interesting scenario where if Koichi is essentially was like I'm the crawler. I wonder if All Might could have been like, oh wow, like he's inspired or not inspired, but he sees like the hero spirit in Koichi. And what if he was like, maybe I should pass on One for All to this kid? Like I thought that could have created such an interesting scenario, and it would have made Vigilantes even more important because we would have seen All Might essentially offer all for One for All to somebody before Deku. I thought that could have been interesting, essentially, especially because Koichi and Izuku are such similar characters that I thought it could have been something that was talked about, but I don't think we're at the point where like All Might is thinking about like passing on One for All yet. I don't think we've reached that like juncture in the story. So it makes sense why that topic wasn't raised, but I was honestly really hoping for it because I thought it could have created such an interesting character moment for Koichi, especially since he's one of my favorite characters. So a little bit disappointed there, but I understand why it's not something that happens in the manga because I don't think we've reached that juncture yet for All Might as a character where he's ready to pass on the quirk. Now, moving on from that, it's time to talk about Six. Everything about this episode, when I said story ramifications, Six is what I'm talking about. So essentially, we see Six talking to All for One on the phone. And then as soon as Six is about to say something, he gets sniped. And he gets sniped by Knuckleduster. Now, seeing Knuckleduster back at all in action is so cool because I honestly thought he was effectively retired. I knew he was feeding like information to the cops and all that, but I thought he wouldn't be coming back like to this extent, honestly. But now it makes total sense. The reason why he's back is because he's confronting the person that has his original quirk. Yes, that's right. Knuckleduster is Overclock. I when I found out that Knuckleduster was Overclock, I lost my mind because it makes so much sense. Like we know that Knuckleduster had a quirk at some point, but it was stolen by All for One. But I never put together that he was essentially overclocking. He had the o'clock quirk. I never put two and two together. But in this episode, you find out why Six is essentially so deranged and why he's using his quirk like this. He essentially has been looking to essentially become the apprentice to Knuckleduster. That's what he's been wanting this whole time. He sees Knuckleduster as his idol, right? He sees him as his All Might. And that's what's so fascinating about Six, right? Because but here, like though the dynamic shifts because when All Might essentially tells Deku, like you can be a hero, you're next, and all that. What Six is saying is that he's essentially taking that like decision from Knuckleduster. He's basically saying like I'm next, like I'm up, and it's it's so interesting because Knuckleduster, you can tell like he does not like this guy at all. So when Six tells him that when Six tells him that he wants to be Knuckleduster's apprentice, he's like, "Well, I already got an apprentice." And that's when the seeds officially are planted for Koichi versus Six. What I think this is going to be, or what I think this is going to turn into now, is I think we're gonna see Six keep slowly devolving, but he sees Koichi as essentially an obstacle for Knuckleduster's like praise and affection. He sees Koichi as essentially an obstacle that he needs to overcome. And what is he gonna have to do? He's gonna have to take Koichi out in order to become Knuckleduster's apprentice. So I think we're gonna see that play out more. Like, and dude, just finding out like how creepy Six truly is. He was like this little creepy little guy thing. He was like this little blob, but he was like what he was learning everything possible about overclock and o'clock. Dude, it was weird. It was weird seeing him as like that little thing, but it makes sense though why he became so deranged. All he ever thought about was overclock and the o'clock quirk. So when he finally got it, like he essentially became so obsessed with like overclock and knuckle duster. But what I like too is that knuckle duster essentially took it upon himself to beat Six, because since he was the one that had the quirk and he's the one that knows everything about it, right? So he can actually beat Six. Like he detonates those explosions and he makes it so like he keeps beating like essentially Six into a coma so that way he can't do anything. I thought that was cool. Now it leaves it on a cliffhanger, so we don't know what's going to happen next, but I'm pretty sure at this point Six is going to get away. But the story ramifications from Six is insane to me, and I just cannot wait to see what happens in the finale. Like what happens next in the finale? Will Six actually like confront Koichi in the finale? Who knows what's going to happen? But I'm so excited to see what happens next. But I think that's going to do it for me. Let me know what you guys thought about this episode down in the comments below. Did you love this episode as much as me and love the story ramifications that came from it? Or did you guys think the episode like wasn't up to your standards? Let me know what you guys think. Like, comment, subscribe, and as always, I'm going to talk to you guys next time.